Hi everyone, welcome to Good Morning Toowoomba with Ben Apsey and special guest today.
Justin McGovern.
How are you today, Justin?
I'm good. Bit cold. Maybe not quite as cold as you. It's about 7 degrees here with a wind chill. How cold is it
Yes,
over there?
it's about 4.3 over where I am with the wind chill. So today is Friday, the 1st of May, the first day of May, and Toowoomba are about to head into a long weekend, something that you wouldn't have had down in Sydney where you're from. Had you been there?
No May Day for Sydney Siders.
No, so top of 18 degrees today, but the wind chill is about 6 degrees less than that. So quite a chilly day up here in Toowoomba, a bit of a raw in your face, windy day as well. So pretty standard for May in Toowoomba, I guess.
Nice and crisp. Nice and crisp.
Nice
Anzac Day.
Oh yes, very much so. Usually we get this weather for Anzac Day, but Anzac Day this year was actually quite pleasant. So it's been 2 years since you've been back in Toowoomba, Justin, back up here, spending some time with family during all the lockdowns.
Yes.
What have you seen that's changed across the region since you've obviously been here 2 years ago?
There's a couple of things. Obviously, things like Grand Central have become more populated. The rail yards have been completed. A lot of other road projects around the place. Now Grand Central is building a larger cinema on top of the roof. And you've got the burn-off development down on Ruthven Street. You've got things like the Oaks in the city as well. So there's a lot of movement and a lot of investment in developing the area for sure. One thing that did sadden me a bit was walking down Margaret Street through the week and seeing a lot of empty shop fronts. So it's a bit sad to see that the high street, as it were, of Toowoomba hasn't really experienced a financial boom that is commensurate to the infrastructure investment in the area.
That's right. It's I mean, we've spoken about it a couple of times on the show about the CBD and the vacancies of the shops. Now the council's brought out all these economic stimulus plans, including free CBD parking, which is really good to see. And now they're doing the community grants as well, which the information for those community grants, if you're a not-for-profit or community group within the region, they're all available on our page. It's up to $499 that you can apply for, which is really good, and that's for communication with people. So looking at getting $499 to put towards Facebook communicating with people during this time. But the CBD, I mean, the Chamber of Commerce have been quite a strong advocate for it during this council election period. Is there anything that you've noticed that you'd like to see done in the CBD, as an outsider's perspective? What's missing? What's Toowoomba missing that, say, somewhere like a like-sized city like Canberra has that maybe we need to look at investing in?
I don't know if there's anything that's specifically missing in the CBD so far. I found it funny that trying to park outside JB Hi-Fi, it was still difficult to find a car park somehow. So maybe some more effective parking, but it seems to have really developed quite consistently. It's just a question of putting programs in place which will help to encourage people to go and shop down in the local stores rather than just in Grand Central. I think that's where the real focus should be, and that may be a place for a community campaign to shop local.
Yeah, that's right.
Necessarily.
Well, we used to have the Margaret Street markets used to be on once a month down on Margaret Street, and I know that was a bit of a contentious issue. Some of the businesses there really enjoyed having those there, and some didn't. And you're right, Margaret Street is looking very, very sad. You're looking at 20% vacancies on the ground floor and 40% on the top floors down there. So is there a way that maybe, I mean, other than trying to get people back on their feet after this, that we could get businesses back into those shop fronts? Is it a case of, have you noticed that the shops are looking a bit dreary, a bit drab, or are you noticing the rents are too high? Or
well, the rents, I think, aren't exactly visible from the street, but I think a bit of a facelift for some shop fronts wouldn't hurt.
I would tend to agree with you on that. So some of the heritage buildings, I mean, they could look quite nice if they were done up. And then council do have the dollar for dollar heritage restoration that they were doing as well. I mean, I'd love to see Toowoomba go up, not out. That's my view, and get some more people living in the city, especially with a lot of people now being able to work from home. but going out
Yes.
is still happening. And we've noticed that, and you mentioned it to me yesterday. The defence housing, you sort of ask, what's going on there. So we've had a look at the plans. And what are your thoughts on defence housing now they've dropped it?
Well, it's interesting they've come back for another shot at the development after such a concerted campaign of community opposition, which was successful. So they're certainly keen, if nothing else. And it's interesting to see they have dropped it from the original, I think, about 340 properties they were going to drop in there, down to around 50. So it looks like they're going for a smaller target to get it through the planning process at first. And I say at first because it looks like it may not just be 50.
Yes, based on the plans, it does quite clearly stated as stage one of a development. So it could be stage one of who knows how many. It could be stage one of two. It could be stage one of we're not going to do any further post this because it didn't work, but you just never know. And on top of that, we've got another development which Berghofer Land Sales are doing out in the south of Toowoomba. We've got the, we've already talked on the show about the one in Westbrook that has been taken to the federal government saying, we need to do this. But then we've got Berghofer doing the Kearney West Estate just off Nelson Street.
Right.
There. So it's coming along well. You can see a lot of the pads for houses are going sort of flattening out now via the aerial views and the detention basins going in. So what are your thoughts on what do you think is better, out or up?
In some ways, it's horses for courses, really. For residential living and keeping the lifestyle, there's probably a good argument to going out, as long as when you do spread out, you keep the acreage lifestyle. Because if you're just going to be living in small blocks of land of 300 square or less, then it really defeats the point of being outside the city. Having said that, I think there is a strong argument for having developments within the city itself, which will allow people to go up, as you say, and have that inner city living if they're close to where work is. So usually young professionals, people who are going to be working close to where they live, that kind of option is great. But if you're raising a family or looking to quieten down in your twilight years, then I think you want to have that space outside. So when the development approvals go through, I think that's a real key consideration, is to make sure that not only are you providing more housing for the community, but you're also considering what the quality of life is in those locations. So it's not a negative thing. I'll have to go for a drive after we can on Saturday to go and have a look.
That's right, and you followed a good point. A lot of professionals may be looking to live in the city, and a lot of people are looking to settle down with family and stuff, looking to live outside. So you're right in the fact that it probably is both can be happening simultaneously. It's not to say one over the other, but for me, I'd love to see better public transport to get people in, to have less cars in the city. I think that's probably really important moving forward. And inner city living, I mean, how many people work at Heritage Bank? There's a lot of people that work there that could be living in the city and not having to drive to work. They can just walk there. And we see that Heritage has got a new board member. Yes.
As of yesterday, they've announced that Peter Clare will be joining the board. He's got a fairly illustrious history in the financial services sector. He's worked at Westpac. He's been through CBA, had a long stint at St. George, and was even the chief of the NZ operation for Westpac for a time. So he's got a long history of the technological innovation side, and I think that will be a key consideration for him coming onto the board, helping that technological change management, having seen the changes through Westpac and St. George from 2002 until about 2012, as I recall. And having had that Big Four experience, will certainly know how to move a lumbering organisation that was the Big Four banks, technologically speaking, in the early 2000s. through into the last decade. I suppose now we're in the next decade, aren't we? But I think certainly he'll bring a very broad depth of experience to the board, and his work in the innovation side of the sector will be paramount to helping Heritage Bank to expand its tech offering to its customers.
Which is good. It'd be nice to see Heritage sort of step up to the plate to really compete with those big four banks, which it does fairly decently. But on a technical side of things, it'd be great to see them introducing stuff like Apple Pay on watches and being a bit more tech savvy on that regard. And I think you're right. He'll bring a lot of expertise in that field. So that's really good to hear that Heritage Bank have done that. And a great local bank. Their head office is based here in Toowoomba, which is really great to see. So.
Yes, absolutely. And who knows, in the post-pandemic world, all of these touch pay options will probably be a lot more popular as we change our habits in many ways.
That's it, and a lot of habits have changed. Well, thank you for joining us on the show, Justin. We don't have Darryl with us today. He's off making wine down in Tenterfield, so I imagine he's feeling very. What a tough life it is making wine, but probably feeling the cold down there a bit more than we are up here. So. A great place to be in with a very cold temperature. So I don't know whether it's good or bad. So we'll wait and hear from him probably tomorrow morning. But thanks for joining us. Do you have anything else to add just at the end of the show?
No, thanks very much for having me. And it's lovely to be here on the magnificent Darling Downs. Hopefully I'll be able to see more than 5 kilometres of it over the weekend. And hopefully everyone enjoys a great long weekend in the beautiful weather that Toowoomba is blessed with this time of year.
Yes, that's exactly right. Well, thanks for joining us here. I am Ben Apsey, and we have Justin McGovern here for Good Morning Toowoomba.